I'm Indra,
And I'm Amanda.
and we'd like to welcome you to The Messy Middle Matters. Hey, Amanda, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Indra?
Doing well. I'm doing well. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about our career progression in an indirect way, because you and I both came of age professionally in roles that had very little authority, but required people to get things done, which meant that you had to rely on influence an awful lot, and getting people to even though you had no, like I said, you had no authority over them. Let's do some definitions so that we understand what we're talking about, and then jump right in. So, authority is the formal power granted by a role or title, the ability to make decisions, allocate resources, or direct others based on organizational structure. People with authority lead because they can. Influence is the ability to shape outcomes, decisions, or behaviors without formal power through relationships, expertise, trust, or communication. People with influence lead because others choose to follow them. And the reality is, I think that most people have to rely so much on their influence, not authority. Because, if you think about an organization and how it's structured, the people with the most authority are at the top of the pyramid. People always use that pyramid example as for good reason, right? Because CEO's at top, and then, the seniority cascades down from there. So many of us, even if they have authority, if we have authority, we have to rely on our influence to get things done. It's pretty remarkable. It's pretty remarkable how important that skill is.
Yeah, you said the organizational pyramid. I think the easiest example of authority versus influence is if you are a direct manager of a team, you have authority over the people who report directly to you.
Yeah.
Whereas you could be the manager of a team, but you don't manage people on another team. So you need to influence that other team to get things done.
Yes. Yes. And when you've gotten it right, and I giggle every single time this happens to me. When you get it right is when people start coming to you, not their people manager, not anyone who has the real authority, and asks you for permission to do things. Can I do this in X, Y, and Z? I'm like, I'm not the person who gets to make that decision, but that sounds great to me. Or I'm not I wouldn't do that if I was you. When you're that person, you're like, oh, influence unlocked.
Right. Sure. I don't know that I could explicitly give you permission to go do that, but sure, that sounds like a good idea.
Sounds like a good idea. So I think that there's lots of the metaphor that, is one of my favorite. I think it's one of your favorites too, is the planting of seeds and watering them. So different scenarios, different ideas, different concepts, different change management requires, or different incentivization requires different tactics. But planting of seeds and watering them is one of my personal favorites. Whether it's I drop a phrase in a meeting and just leave it and don't pay attention to it because I know that they'll get scared like baby deer by hearing if I say it too loud, or and then mentioning it over and over again, for 3 successive weeks, and people hey, we should do this thing where we're planting sunflowers. You don't say sunflowers. I don't know where that idea came from. That's one of my favorite really indirect ways of showing influence. I don't know what others, if you want to add to that one, or if you have others that you might want to add to the mix.
Yeah, for me, it's leading by example, right? It's what comes to mind for me is I'll join an organization that has a lot of meetings on the calendar, that don't have any agendas, that don't have a clear purpose.
Yeah.
And when I start scheduling my own meetings, I list out a very detailed agenda. Here's the purpose. Here's the audience. Here's the agenda. Here's what we're going to cover. Here's what the desired outputs are. And I'll just continuously do that. And people usually catch on.
Yeah. Being super helpful when it comes to I would put a lot of that, not all of it, but a lot of that into the category of glue work. When you start
Mm-hmm.
doing that little glue work, that invisible work that helps the teams move forward and work really effectively, and it's not part of your job description, right? When you do
Right.
something that you're not, that they know you're not getting measured on, it builds so much goodwill. It's so much, and the dividends you reap from that are unexpected, and disproportionate with that. Like you gotta walk a line, and that's a different episode about walking the line of where you. And we've done that before, but like that planting, that doing of those little things for people, bringing in the chocolate. Hey, I brought in donuts today.
Right. It's building trust, right? It's building
Building
trust. You said
trust.
goodwill. It's building goodwill. It's it's remaining consistent, right? Like
Mm,
going back to the watering the seed
yeah.
metaphor, it's continually watering that seed that you planted.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I think that not every tactic works all the time. The reason that I like the whole seed example, at least for my brain, is I try a lot of little things. And like it's not completely like buckshot where there's things absolutely everywhere and it's completely random spaghetti against the wall. But there are like lots of little micro experiments that I run. I'm like, what's going to hit and what's going to get the traction that I needed to get so that I can get my agenda advanced. Because let's face it, we've all got agendas at work. Let's not kid ourselves. You don't think you have an agenda, you got some self reflection to do, because at the very least you want to get paid. But yeah, run a lot of those little micro experiments and say, hey, like they responded well to that one. Okay, let me do more of that or less of the other thing.
Yeah, it's a tactic that I like to use is, hey, have we thought about trying this? Or have we thought about doing this thing this way? Like, no, okay, can we try it just once? If it sucks, like we don't have to continue doing it, right?
What I love about that type of phrasing, and that phrasing specifically too, is that it invites conversation, and it
Mm-hmm.
also invites somebody with authority to
Yes.
come in and say, I think that's a great idea. Let me take this seed that Amanda threw out there with this in the form of a question. And now I, with authority, am going to come in and I'm going to say, let's pursue this and let's try this out. Or with authority, they might be able to say, hey, we tried that 3 years ago and it failed for X, Y, and Z reasons. These conditions have changed, but these ones haven't. So I don't know if we want to try that again. Right. Like, oh, okay. Like, but that invites the conversation, and that allows you to collect more information that then allows you to have a larger resource pool when you're trying to exude influence in a situation.
That is such a good point. Part of a potential strategy could be to, as an influencer,
Yeah.
not like a TikTok
A corporate
influencer,
influencer,
a
not
corporate influencer.
an
Sorry, got
in-house
distracted.
influencer.
But as an
In-house.
influencer, as an influencer, um, to invite
Mm-hmm.
someone with authority to to be that voice of authority at the table, to like boost your influencing seeds.
Yes. Or if you can, and like that's with the authority. The other one, if you don't have access to that, because, executives or people with authority are being pulled in 50 different directions and their time is sometimes hard to get. Who can you elevate from a different team or from your own team, even as well? Like if you lead people, but who can you elevate to champion this thing and bring it forward and let them shine and help to shine the spotlight on them? Like that's also because what'll happen is that person who's being elevated and supported while they're being elevated, because you're there to help support them, is going to remember that. The people who know that person, who see you elevating this person they like and respect, is going to see that and build your goodwill and your trust and your influence. And it's just going to cascade the ripples you can get from something like that. So like you can either take I love the idea of bringing in that executive and like say, hey, I need you for 15 minutes for X, Y, and Z. This is the reason, blah, 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 and that'll help you move things forward. Or you can go the other way or from this. There's lots of different ways you can use that tactic. I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, it's the it's you said ripple and cascade. It's like, well, I don't know, for example, I don't know your friend Shelly,
Mm,
right? But I know and trust you, Indra.
yeah.
And if you trust Shelly, I'm going to trust
Yes.
Shelly.
Yes. Yes. And I think that the one thing that we all need to be really careful when we're doing this, like, this cannot be, you need to proceed with this with a true selfless intentions or true greater good intentions, or else it's going to be perceived, and it might actually be manipulation of people, because manipulation and they have similar, there's similarities between the behaviors, but the intention behind doing this stuff gives you a completely different read and completely different results.
Right. If you come at this with I want to progress something for the greater good, right?
Yes.
For the to get the thing done
For our shared
collectively,
objectives.
shared objectives,
Absolutely.
share goals, right? Like it'll come off a lot better.
Then I'm trying to elevate myself. Myself.
Right. Or I'm trying to push my own personal agenda.
100%. 100%. Like, and so, it's really important to do that. And the other thing is, influence, authority can be exerted in that moment, at that time, and get results in that moment. Influence, it's a much longer game. It's a
Oh yeah.
much, much, much longer game, depending. And sometimes you need to be more authoritative because there is a deadline. You need to remind people of things, and et cetera, et cetera. But like, influence is the long game. It's about building those durable relationships. It's about building, like you're saying, building that trust. It's about people remembering things, like, when, gosh, I'll say the TD Ameritrade, it took two, like I was always say, like, from the moment that my team had an idea to when it would actually like catch fire, it was 2 years. It was 2 years. I had clocked it somewhere early, and like, they're like, oh my gosh, your number is right. I'm like, I know my number is right. It takes 2 years, and that's okay. And that's the speed at which this organization works. And that's fine, because change, because what my team was advocating for was change. And change is really hard, especially when you're in a complex organization, right? Like, we could do things really quickly when we had to, but like, some of the stuff that we were championing for was not the stuff that was going to make it to the top of the list, right? Not immediately. It wasn't, the value wasn't inherently clear for folks. So,
Right. There's a whole change management cycle,
mm-hmm.
right? It like not everything, I would say most things don't happen overnight. Like what comes to mind is a like a culture change, right? Just something as simple as so an organization that I work with does a water cooler Wednesdays
Okay.
question, right? And I think when it first started, there wasn't a lot of engagement, but
Yeah.
like a few people. And I think showing up consistently every Wednesday, right, with this question of like trying to get to know your coworkers better, and just like having a little bit of banter and levity in your day, um, showing up consistently and like showing the value of having this ritual made it become a thing that people look forward to now. But it
Yeah.
didn't happen overnight. It happened over the course of time, every Wednesday for however long it took for people to really buy in and be like, oh, I'm actually really excited for the question on Wednesday now.
Yeah. It's like, I love that you went there. It's because I'm part of a community of community builders, and shout out to Fabric. And some of the stuff that they talk about all the time is how it's about showing up consistently and authentically. Like, those are the
Mhm.
things that build the trust. And when people see, I love your story. When people see that you showed up with consistency, like, maybe the first time you'll have two people show up, maybe you'll have three people show up, maybe the fourth time you'll have one person show up. But when maybe the fourth time, they're like, suddenly you have 15 people, they're like, oh, she's really committed to this. Because in organizations, the number of times somebody starts something like a water cooler Wednesday, and it's like, we're starting a new series, and you see a series of one.
Right.
And
And it's just like womp
it never
womp.
happens again. Like, nobody
Yeah.
believes it until they see that there is that consistency in you, in the way you're talking about things, in the way that you operate, and in the things that you're doing. When they see that, and then if you're like, maybe water cooler Wednesday doesn't work out, you're like, Hey guys, tried water cooler Wednesday, didn't work out. Abandoning that one, not because, like I don't like the idea. It's just clearly not catching on. So we're going to move on to something else. That actually builds trust and plants a different seed for the trust that gives you the influence later.
Right, right. And, you don't have to, using the water cooler Wednesdays example again, you don't have to show up in the same exact way every time,
No.
right? Like going back to your micro experiments, right?
Yeah.
You can adjust, you can iterate, you can like you could shift the format of the questions. You can shift the type of question you ask. You can shift all kinds of things to figure out what does work.
You don't want, right. You wouldn't, I think that people would react terribly actually if it was absolutely consistent every single time, because that feels like it's phoned in. It feels templated. It feels sterile. It feels like you don't want it completely drastically different because that's too much, right? But like, hey, trying out this work, this didn't work. Like, let's keep the good and yeah, introduce it and like let go of the things that weren't as good. So, but yeah.
Yeah. As someone who successfully grew some things in an actual garden in the backyard this year, it just goes back to the whole planting a seed, watering the seed. If something's not working, move the plant or like
Pay
shade the
attention.
plant or like maybe water it more, maybe water it less. Like just do those little experiments to figure out what works, what doesn't work, and to continue watering that plant and eventually reap the benefits of it, right?
100%. I think that the word that came to mind as you're talking about that is pay attention.
Pay
Pay
attention.
attention.
Yeah. I mean, I we had friends over last night and they're very into plants, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, our tomatoes aren't doing so well. Like, what's wrong with them? And they were able to like diagnose the problem, suggest some
I love
adjustments.
that.
And so we're gonna go to the store and get some vitamins. I think it was like I think phosphorus was the thing. Like they're
Shout out to
not
phosphorus. Well
right.
done.
The tomatoes are not getting all the nutrients they need, right? But it's one of those things where like the light is great, the watering is great, but there's just something that's not right.
And all you have over those tomatoes is influence. They're going to
Yes.
do what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, just like humans. They're going to do what they're going to do, how they're going to do it. And no matter what you try and force them to do, people or tomatoes, you can't. You can't. At a certain point, there's a even with authority, there's a threshold that you hit, and you still need influence when you have authority.
People are tomatoes is my takeaway from this.
Okay, with that, we have to call it. I think we got to call it an episode. I don't know how you follow that one up.
No.
Anyway, so everyone, try things out. Build a good reputation. Be consistent, and treat people like tomatoes? Question mark. Amanda, thank you for a delightful episode. I hope that everyone who is listening got something out of this, whether it's a nugget that they can apply or they feel like they've been seen a little bit. And I hope y'all join us next time for another topic from the messy middle. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for taking time with us in the messy middle. Word of mouth remains the most powerful way for people to find us. If this episode sparked something for you, we'd love it if you'd subscribe to the podcast on your favorite app, download a few episodes, and share it with someone else who's navigating the in between. Do you have ideas for future episodes or topics you'd like us to explore? You can find our feedback form at themessymiddlematters.com or in the show notes. Thank you for joining us on this journey. This work is better when we do it together. Until next time.